This is Our View, the television voice of the Washington Federation of State Employees, the people who work for you. Senator Kevin Ranker puts it very well when he discusses the quality of the services provided by the state. He illustrates his view by comparing the very different business models offered by two well-known retailers.
The per square foot of profit in a Costco store versus the per square foot of profit in a Walmart store was what this article was looking at. And what's interesting now is there's been a bunch of data looking at this. And Costco is far more profitable. The most recent data that I looked at per hourly employee. So per hourly employee, Costco generates over in an annual period over $23,000. Walmart is just over $11,000. And all of the data shows very clearly why: employee turnover. Costco has good wages and a great benefit package. Walmart has minimum wage and no benefits. And so Costco employees are proud of their job. They love their job. They love working there. They like the company. Walmart employees don't necessarily. And what this data shows is that the profitability of the corporation is impacted dramatically. The same example holds true in government. Is that in government, in Washington State, it is no coincidence that we have some significant lawsuits and pending legal action in areas that happen to overlap with areas where we have massive employee turnover. Let's take a look at Western State Hospital. In Western State Hospital, a psych nurse and others who work there can literally walk down the street and not double, but dramatically increase their wages. And we also have poor working environments. If employees are paid well and treated well, they thrive, and the services that they provide thrive. Back to Costco, there was an exit poll that I read somewhere a couple years ago, and it was looking at Walmart versus Costco. Again, customers coming out of Costco made comments like, wow, I really enjoyed it, I got what I needed, the employees were very helpful. People walking out of Walmart made comments like, well, it wasn't that great, but it was cheap. Well, I like the Costco model, and I think Washington should demonstrate the Costco model when it comes to the services that we provide as a government. Because in the end, if the employees are treated well and they're paid well, they provide the services we need. And those services, by the way, are critical not only for maintaining roads or public safety, but also taking care of our elderly, taking care of our mentally ill, taking care of our children. These are things that government provides, and these are things that we've better provide very well.
Our conversation with Chris Vance, former state GOP chairman, continues this month with a look beyond the legislative posturing and into how the budget and the priorities are determined.
It's the rules of the game force them to compromise. They must balance their budget. They must adjourn at a certain time. They have to pass a budget by July 1 or state government shuts down. Those factors will force them to eventually compromise. I'm sure in the end, the Republican Senate and the Democratic House will compromise. And they'll pass a budget. They won't shut down state government, just like they haven't the past several years. The question is, though, can they reach agreement on any of the big issues that are hanging out there? Or will they just continue to punt down the road? Because really, Tim, what's happened the past several years is, they've passed budgets and kept state government running, but they have kicked the can down the road on McCleary, on mental health, on other issues, rather than working together to fix them. Republicans and Democrats need to come together and decide that this is going to be a historic session when they finally settle these big issues. Will they? I don't know. My biggest advice to them would be, do you want to be popular? Do you want the voters to love you? Believe me, I can tell you from experience, there's nothing voters love more than to turn on their TV and to see a press conference with Republicans and Democrats together announcing a bipartisan agreement to solve a big problem. If you are motivated by self-interest and you want to be popular, work with the other side. Voters love that, and that's what needs to happen. This has got to be the year that they actually do McCleary. They have to. The issue that's out there is revenue. Is what are we going to do anything to change the revenue situation, or are we just going to try and pass a budget with no new revenues? Now, the past several years, the Republicans have won that fight, and by just refusing to increase taxes, there have been a few small revenue increases, and they've been able to pass budgets that kept the government open, did put more money into education, did put more money into higher ed, did fund your contracts, but didn't solve any big fundamental problems. Again, that's what they have to work on, because they can't keep doing that forever. The Supreme Court is not going to let them forever ignore the fact that our schools are unconstitutionally funded. I hope society won't let them ignore forever that our mental health system is a patchwork, threadbare, system that doesn't protect us or help people. So they need to decide that they're going to compromise on these big issues, and that means some members are going to have to take some politically difficult votes. But it has to be done. And I don't believe it needs to necessarily be done with a tax increase that's going to hurt the middle class. But there isn't enough money right now in the current system, in the current configuration, to solve all these problems. That's just a fact.
Police officers in the city of Paris have been subjected to increased danger as they deal with an outbreak of violence. Officers recently held a demonstration demanding the government give them more safety on the job.
Last December in France, Police Association MPC organized a march through the streets of Paris. Hundreds of French police officers protested against the certain working conditions and a general disappointment of the Justice Department. These marches started over a month ago when 2 officers were severely injured by Molotov cocktails thrown by young delinquents during a surveillance operation in the northern suburbs of Paris. They're concerned about their safety. More officers are attacked in some areas while doing their job. France's law enforcement agents are civil servants hired by the Minister of the Interior. Their status does not allow them to go on strike, but they can protest within or out of their union. By protesting in public, some officers fear consequences from their superiors. This is why some of them will not be showing their faces in front of the camera. This officer has been on the job for 30 years. He says verbal and physical attacks have never been this high before. Our job is to protect the people. If we're not safe, how can we protect you? This officer has been on the job for 7 years. He says his working conditions are deteriorating day by day, and that sentences are not applied properly. We arrest them, and they get released, just because French prisons are badly funded. They say that some prisons in France have been turned into crime schools. I myself have been victim of violent attacks, and my attacker has not done any time, nor did I receive any compensation. We can see now that if you are sentenced to less than 5 years in jail, you will be on parole, but you will not have to do any time. French officers feel that this administration needs restructuring, with new methods and priorities. One officer points out that their superiors are just looking at the number of arrests instead of the type of arrests. They prefer arresting 100 individuals with 4 ounces of narcotics than one person with 400 ounces. It's all about the numbers. If more arrests are made, more funds are sent to that department. The French Minister of the Interior, Bernard Cazeneuve, just pushed through Parliament a budget extension of 250 million euros for the French police department. But these police officers expect more from their minister than just extra cash. Police unions also have demanded changes on self-defense regulations when having to use force. It's not the amount of money that will make a difference. It's how these funds will be used. Last November's, the statistics from the Minister of the Interior showed that traffic tickets were diminished by 51% compared to last year, a form of protest that can bring some sympathy from the people. 2017 will be an election year in France, and with a new administration on its way, France's finest expect changes for the future. Benjamin Marcus for Our View, Paris, France.
While Washington state debates the funding of our education system, labor leaders around the world take the view that education isn't just the responsibility of the state, but it is a basic human right of the people.
I think that's exactly the right way to put it. Education is a human right, and unions stand up for human rights. Now, what that means in terms of this agenda is that if people get to the age of 16, 17, 18, and they're not that great at reading and writing maybe, or they don't have the confidence to grab hold of educational opportunities, or when they get into work in their early 20s maybe, they're missing out on the kinds of chances to train that other people get. That's where unions can help those people to access that right. And those people, if anything, have more right to education and training than anybody else because they're not exercising the same rights. So that right to education and training for everybody, that's what unions stand for, just as much at work as anywhere else.
It is a basic human right. I mean, it's very tough to function in our modern societies today, and it's becoming tougher and tougher without an education. We heard that at the meeting today from a representative of the OECD, that whether or not you have an education is becoming more and more important to all parts of your life, both in the world of work, but also in how you can function in society at large. So it is becoming more and more important as a human right also.
Well, it's absolutely right. It's a human right to get free access to education system as wide as you like, till bachelor, till master, till PhD. Yeah, fully agree. That's what we were working on.
There are many factors that contribute to the ability of workers to obtain and to keep good jobs. Education is one of those factors, but there are others, such as government policy and our desire to have good, decent trade agreements that pay attention to workers' rights.
This has been Our View, brought to you by the proud members of the Washington Federation of State Employees. We remind you, when you accept a paycheck for your hard work, you don't give up your rights. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next month.